Welcome back to Once Upon a Sister. I'm Faith.
I'm Rosalie,
and we're your hosts. Okay.
Also, we didn't plan who was going to talk first.
Yeah. Let's look at each other. So today we're doing our book recap for the book of the month of May, which was the Unmaking of June Farrow. So,
warning y'all now, it's going to be spoilers.
Yeah, so if you have not listened, or sorry, if you've not read the book, don't listen to this. Like, click out now, read the book, and come back when you finished it, because you're going to get things spoiled for you.
Yeah. But before we jump into that, we are, as always, going to be doing, what are we reading right now, or what did we just read? What about you?
So I literally just read this yesterday. I wanted it to be fresh. Yeah, this book. So I finished that last night. Before that, I read... or I listened to The Perfect Son by Frida McFadden. And that was good. It had a little twist that was surprising. I don't know. I feel like what people say, like the more they've read or the more they listen, like it's not as surprising anymore, which I feel like I've reached that point. That was like my 8th book by her, I want to say. But it still did surprise me. It had something that I wasn't expecting. But I feel like when you start reading those books, you're always searching for what could the twist be. So like, you know, something's coming, but I feel like Frida McFadden's like her writing style is so exact, like to every single like each book has the same formula, and you know that it's going to follow this formula, and like, you know, there's going to be an unreliable narrator, you know, there's going to be a twist, and then you know there's probably going to be some sort of weird little twist at the epilogue. So I was gonna say, this month has been like, we've both slumped out. Like, we both of us been sick, and like, I don't know. April I read 15 books, and this month I think I've now done 9, which is still a lot of books. No,
I think I read 10.
But it's still a lot of books. But it's like, compared
to our normal, that's like way less.
And I was like, I was not as eager to pick up books like normal. So like, that's why I'm like writing. Today I'm starting. I haven't gotten to start it yet because I have my kids, so I can't really like start in the middle of the day normally. But I'm going to be starting my first arc, which I've talked about already, but it's called Twisted Trust by Jamie Wilborn. It's the second. The first one's called Forgotten Fate, and it's going to come out on June 13th. So I'm starting that tonight.
So soon.
Yeah. I'm excited.
That's so fun. Yeah. No, as she said, like, I don't know, this month has been a slumpy month, so I'm ready to just like get back. I don't know. I feel like you go through it, but we still read plenty of books. Anyways, I'm reading, let me look real quick. Sorry. I'm reading The Run Option by Anna Conwell. And I think it was the last episode when I was reading The Golden Goal, which is the first book in this, like, interconnected standalone series. And I was saying I was picking it up because people said that there's no spice in it, and it's like a sports romance series. And I'm on the 3rd book, and I can happily report that there is no spice. So if you're looking for something... I would definitely recommend it. Obviously, it's like, not obviously, but it's not like the greatest thing ever, but they're really like, they're all like under 300 pages, so they're quick and easy. Like, you can zoom through them, and I don't know, they're just like good romance. Also, even though they are like that little of pages, like the romance is more slow burn. Like, they're not getting together until like 80%. Which it's nice because you really just get to follow, I don't know, the progression of the relationship, and it's not like an instant thing, and there's no spice, so it's like I can relax and know I'm not gonna have to skip anything. That's really nice, so I'd recommend that. And then also I just started Foxglove by Adeline Grace, which this is the second book to the Belladonna book, and I'm really liking this series. I don't even know how to describe it, also because I kind of went in blind, but basically, okay, I'm going to describe the first book as, like, there's this girl, and she can't die, and, I don't know, that's all I'm going to say. Like, I don't know how much else I want to say. It's really good if you go into it blind, but also it has, like, Regency vibes to it, so that's fun, but I'm really liking it, and, like, it's very interesting, and I feel like I've not read anything like it, so... I don't know. I don't want to, like, talk about it much because it's just fun to go into stuff blind sometimes, and that's how I went into it. But it's really good. Also, just, I don't know. I like the romance. It's done well, and it's not, like, super insta love or anything. It's just a nice little slow burn. Anyways, that's all I'm reading right now.
I guess I am reading, which I can't even really tell y'all because my friend / manager, like, she was like, hey, I guess she wrote a book, and so she was like, would you read it for me and like give me your opinion, because she's like, you know, she's saying how she's like her own worst critic and she felt like it was bad and she was gonna scrap it, and her husband's like, no, just like ask somebody else to read it. So I started reading it. I just finished chapter 2, and so far it's very interesting, but I'm like, I can't even, it's not even a book that's out, but I'm like, it's fun to read like something that someone, you know, like
put time into,
and like honestly, like I have to remind myself that like she wrote it because she's done a very good job. Like, she's doing a very good job. And I was, she's wrote like 17 chapters, and I was like, I know I'm gonna get through the 17 and be like, where's the rest of the book? But yeah, so that's kind of fun. That's something I've never done before. But there's that little part of me in the back of my mind that's like, I'm not gonna be able to mark this on Goodreads.
You can still count it, like just add it to your goal and know it's there.
But yeah, anyway, so that's that. What have y'all been reading?
Also, I wanted to say it feels like it's been so long since we filmed the podcast, because we usually film the podcast like
a week ahead,
and we filmed the last one a week ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
so
then
it's been 2 weeks since we filmed.
have not filmed, like, this one is going up tomorrow, so it's been like 2 weeks since we filmed.
Yeah, because she was sick and
I got sick.
Yeah, it was like
she was busy, house was falling apart. Like, we just have not been able to sit down. Like, that combined with us being kind of in a little bit of a slump with the books. I'm like, I just want to get back into the book world.
Yeah,
and like,
even like everything. I'm like, I'm slumped out with my own personal content, like my personal page. I'm like, I don't know. I guess it just hits sometimes. No. Summer blues. I don't know.
It's not even summer yet. Like, it was just May. I don't know. But I'm ready to like. Today I got home from work because I finally felt better from being sick, and I just like I made a TikTok for my account. I made a second TikTok that I'm gonna upload later, and then I made making one for us. Like, I'm just ready to like get back into the creation.
Be creative.
It's fun. Anyway,
time
to get into the Unmaking of June Farrow.
So let me get out my notes.
First off, what did you rate it? I haven't even thought. See, that's the thing. When we do the book club, we don't, and like when we mark it as read on our Goodreads, we don't put the rating because we want it to be like a surprise for when you'll watch the episode. So when I go and I mark the book as finished, I haven't even thought about a rating.
So I think I'm gonna rate it 4 stars.
Yeah, I like want to. It's definitely not a 5-star.
No.
I think 4 too.
I really enjoyed the book. I was very intrigued. There wasn't a point where I like had to like make myself pick it up. I was interested to pick it up every time. I just didn't have a ton of time to read, so I read it slower than I normally would. But I was very intrigued. It was a very interesting like story concept, and I like, even just from the description on the back, I really didn't know what this was going to be.
No.
Like, it was shocking. Like, it was not like anything we ever really read.
Like, she started it before I had, and I was just struggling to start it because I don't know, I think I was reading other stuff and then like, I don't know, just slumped out. And the other thing was we both this is so bad.
This is so bad. I don't even want to admit this.
We only had it on the physical copy because like on Libby the wait was so long for like the audio and the Kindle, and we both were struggling to start it.
I can't read a physical book anymore, and that's probably so first world problems of me, but like, I'm also so used to my Kindle.
Yeah, for me, I can read a physical book, but I only read a physical book during the day when I have energy to sit there and hold it up. Like, at night, I just want to lay down and get my Kindle out. So,
and that's really the only time of day I read is at night. Like, I want to lay down on my side. Like,
so we were struggling because that was the only option we had. And then one day we were FaceTiming and we were both just like, okay, I'm buying it on the Kindle because we wanted to be able to read it.
It was ridiculous. Normally, like, that's not us. Like, we wait for something to become available, but it was really just because
this was for the book club,
had to get it finished so we could make this episode.
Anyways, but because of that, like, you had bought it, and then like I just hadn't gotten to it yet, and she had read like the first chapter, and she was like, but it's like not what we were expecting. She's like, the lady,
well, like, first off, it was 2023 in the book.
No, so I thought it was gonna be like 1902 or something. She was like, well, first off, it's 2023, and I was like, oh, and then she's like, also the main girl is like 34. I was like, what? In my head, I know this wasn't a fantasy, but for some reason I got it in my mind that it was. So I was like, okay, 18 years old, like, girl, back, like, not back then, but like, this is gonna be some fantasy world. And then I was like, wait, this is not what I was thinking it was for some reason.
Yeah, it's not.
I don't know
it's
why.
Not fantasy, for one. I don't know why it gets lumped in as that. It's like,
It's just like magical realism, like real
kind
world.
of, yeah. It's real world, but there's an element of magic.
I feel like it's more like a
but it's not even like
a historical twist.
Yeah. I would say this is a really this is a good book to recommend to a popular, like what's the word I'm looking for, like when someone doesn't have a set genre that they like, or like you don't even know really what they would like. This is a good book to recommend, because it covers so
I feel like it's very
many
broad. You get romance, you get like fun magical realism, time travel, you get, I don't know, just a mystery. It's really good.
Yeah, it's yeah.
But that's what so my rating was 4 stars, and it really wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah, literally when I saw that she was 34, I would, like, my jaw actually dropped, because I, like, you know, if you read a lot of romantasy, like, they're all 19
or just any book. I feel like most of the people, I don't know, especially in fantasy, it's just younger.
I will say it was pretty refreshing though.
It was
to get a different point of view. Like, I can't even tell you the last time I read a book where someone was that old.
Yeah,
the main character. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty refreshing. And I remember, because so when we did our last book month, which was Fearless book club of them,
when we last did
our last book club pick, which was Fearless. Yes. I feel like I didn't write down enough, and then there was like certain names I couldn't remember, and so this time I was like, I need to write down every single name. I didn't write down every single name.
I wrote down a few,
but I feel like I can remember them. Because there's not as many as like there was in Fearless, for one.
There was, so going off of that, the thing for me was I was planning to read this last week, and then
she got so sick.
I got
she was
sick.
Like dead.
So I was like, okay, well, crap, I only have like a certain amount of time left in the month, and I have to read this and we have to film the episode. Yeah. But like the second day I was sick, I don't know how the audiobook became available, and I was like, thank you, because I grabbed it, and that was how I, like, not that I wasn't interested, but that was what got me started. She has a hard time, like, physically reading when she's sick. I don't know what it is, but when I'm sick, I can't read. Like, I don't know, I'm just, like, laying in bed, which you think I would have all the time in the world. I physically can't read. Like, I don't know if it's my mind can't stay focused or what. Like, all I can do is just sit there and watch something. So when I'm sick, I would love to have all the time in the world to read, but I don't. So when I saw that the audiobook was available, I was like, okay, I'm going to grab this, because then I can like listen to it at least if I don't have the energy to read it. So I picked it up on the audiobook, and that's why I was like, okay, I need to write these characters, because I'm not, like, sometimes when I'm listening to an audiobook, I struggle to remember as much as I would if I'm reading it. I don't know if that's just me.
Yeah, sometimes. So last night I was like, I gotta finish the book. Like, for me personally, the past several days have been jam packed. Like, I've been renovating our bathroom, and so we had a bunch of people over. My dad, my father-in-law, my husband's brothers, like, and then their wives all came too. So like my mom, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, like, so we were hosting a ton of people. And while they were renovating, we were starting early, and we were like not getting to bed till like 2 a.m. So my sleep schedule is jacked right now. And last night was like the first night where it was like my normal schedule. Like, my husband went to work, and I was on my own. I put the kids to bed, and I sat down on the couch, and I was like, I'm going to knock this out. I had like 3 hours left. I started reading. I fell asleep on the couch. I never do that. I was so tired because I've been getting like 4.5, 5 hours of sleep every night because of going to bed so late. And so like I fell asleep from like 8:30 to 9:30. And then I was like, I couldn't keep my eyes open. I was like, how am I going to do this? So I had like my Audible credit. So I was like, I just did that. It? And so I used that for like half of the remainder. And I will say, I didn't know that I was reading Eamon as
or Eamon. I know.
It was Eamon.
So I had listened to the audiobook, and I knew his name was Eamon, and then when I picked it up physically, I was like, immediately when I saw the spelling, I was like, I know Faith, because I didn't know you had the audiobook. So I was like, I know we're going to go to the podcast, and Faith's going to be like, Eamon,
and then you're going to correct me.
And then I'm going to be like, it's actually Eamon.
As soon as I started it and I heard her say Eamon, and I was like, ooh, I'm glad I heard that.
So if you, like, our mom only listened to it, so she hasn't physically looked at the book.
It's spelled
Eamon.
Yeah. Which I guess makes sense now that I know.
But when you hear Amen, you're expecting like AMON. I don't know. Or like double A. I don't know.
I would have put AEMON. I would have swapped the...
Yeah. No, yeah.
Anyway, so let's get into like the book itself. So...
We're trying to go a little bit looser this time with Fearless. We really like... broke down the whole book, which I think was good for Fearless. But this time, I don't know. We don't need to necessarily break down the whole book, and obviously we can just go with flow and do whatever.
So it says that like the whole premise, right, was like that her mom left her when she was like 7 months old, went crazy. So the whole concept the whole time is like, oh, they went crazy. Okay, so let me just start reading my notes, right? The first thing I put was, I'm surprised that it's modern day and that it was in like geographical America. Like when she was like, oh, I'm in North Carolina.
I know.
I was like, oh, like I don't know why I was not expecting that. Like
that's what happens.
I just when you get so used to fantasy. Like,
yeah, when you have like preconceived notions.
So her grandma dies, right? And so then she sees like the man on the porch with the cigarette.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And then like she sees the door. I think that night she sees the door during the funeral too.
I think so.
So like my first thought is like she's just hallucinating things, right? And so then she finds the letter from her grandma with the picture in it. So that chapter shook me a little bit. It was like chapter 2, no, when she saw the picture in the
was that chapter 2 when that happened?
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Seriously?
She finds it's the end of the chapter 2. She finds the letter from her grandma that she like had mailed her, and it's a picture of the town minister from like 1912, Nathaniel Rutherford, and his wife, which looks exactly like her mom. I was like,
yeah,
what? So my first thought was not that it was her mom. My first thought was that like
it was June. My first thought was like, is this June? And like somehow she doesn't, like I was thinking maybe it was going to be some sort of parallel life thing.
I didn't think that. I thought that like I was like, I don't know. Part of me was like, are people being repeated? Like, I don't know.
I had that like at one point, cause like, I don't know how exactly we're going about this because we're not necessarily breaking it down.
Yeah.
But like when she went through the door and she appeared in 1951 and like we get to meet Esther and we get to meet Margaret and like it's her grandma but she's young and
okay, but wait, so before that though is when she starts like,
but are we breaking it down? I'm just like talking.
Oh, we can a little bit, but like I want to say like she starts digging into everything. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And she goes to the church and they like finds the records and she finds out that Susanna Rutherford had a daughter named June.
Yeah.
And she finds out that like the day that Susanna the day
that the baby died
is the day that she ended up in her world, like October 2nd. And then
so her friend Mason like came up with a fake birthday for her, and that day was the day that the baby
It wasn't the same day.
Or they talked about it.
No, it was March 20th was the day he decided, but March 14th was the day that she was actually born.
But she said it was close.
Yeah, but it wasn't the exact same.
I wasn't saying that.
I thought you were saying it was. No, because I went back because I was like, wait, is it the same day?
And then the day that like that baby was born were so close.
Yeah.
So she was like, but because of that, and then like when she finally goes through the door, I started having a theory at one point that it was like I was thinking it was something where it was like Susanna and June and somehow they were just replaced and like copied it, like it was just like some sort of mother-daughter thing, like, but I don't know, the whole time I was confused. I was just like, I know what is going on.
Okay, so like you said, like she went through the door and she meets Esther and she meets Margaret, which is her grandma, when she was 16.
Yeah.
When she basically before she goes through, when Birdie sees all the stuff in the house and she's like
all of her like
she gives her the little paper that says like trust me or whatever.
No, the letter
that says trust me, and then she's like she asks her like how many times have you seen the door, and she's like 4, and she's like it's not supposed to happen like this. I was like, what does that mean?
I know.
I was like, what does it mean it's not supposed to happen?
I was
so confused.
Like at first I was just like, okay, well, Gran told Birdie like more about it so that she could tell June. But then when she was like, well, that's not how it's supposed to happen, I was like, what are you talking about?
I remember like that part made me think like I felt frustrated because even June was like, just tell me. Like she wanted Birdie to just be flat out with her, and she's like, I can't. I'm like, why can't you? But I felt frustrated that Birdie got to know information from Gran, but not from Gran. Wouldn't like Gran had her whole 34-year life to tell her, and she didn't. Which obviously,
I feel like I didn't feel frustrated by that, just because in my head I was thinking like, well, obviously. Because, like, the way Birdie was like, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's not how it's supposed to happen. So I'm like, there's obviously some sort of, like, timeline, like, thing that needs to play out. And I'm like, in my head, I was like, okay, well, Grant didn't tell her because it needs to play out in a certain way.
Yeah.
So I feel like I didn't get frustrated. But, yeah, I was just like, why?
So, I don't know.
Okay. I wrote down chapter 10, which is the chapter where she steps through the door and she's like walking on the side of the river, and Eamon like comes and grabs her and takes her, and then she meets Esther and Margaret, and I was just like, I am so confused right now. Like, we started getting more, I guess, pieces of the puzzle, but I was like, what?
Yeah, but even like Esther, when Esther was like, this has never happened before, I don't know, I was like,
yeah,
if I was June, I think I would lose it. Like,
but then like when they're in like Esther's house and they're kind of explaining to June like Esther starts explaining to her that like you come through the door and like you only get like three things, and like she's so the like whole time she's explaining to her, I'm like, and I was like, is this because I'm sick right now? But I literally cannot wrap my mind around it.
So it was like the 3 times they can go through the door. So it's like once over, once back, and then once more. But they can't come back the second time. So it was like immediately we realized like, okay, so when her mom came back when she was pregnant, that didn't count. Sorry. So then she went back, had her, and then when she brought her back, that was like she basically unwillingly took away June's first time through the door.
Yeah.
And I think Esther said something like, once you go through the door, that's what activates the crossing, is what she called it, like where things start crossing over. And that for every person, every woman, it was like a different speed. So like for her it was slow and gradual, like she was old and she seemed to have it pretty all together.
Yeah.
But then like some people, like she said that her mom or something, I can't remember, like she pretty much like happened all at once and she lost it. Like,
yeah.
So I'm just like,
and also at this point, like she meets Eamon and we start piecing together like, oh, she was married to Eamon, she came back, somehow she got married to him, had a daughter. But my head from like the first, because that's chapter 10 is when she goes over, so we spent 9 chapters like in her actual present day life in 2023, and we get to meet Mason, who is like her best friend. And I don't know why, but I immediately latched onto him. I was like, okay, love interest? Like, it's going to be like a friends to lovers. She's like against it because obviously she doesn't want to have a kid and doesn't want to like subject her husband to whatever goes on with her family. So this is going to be like it all happens and like she gets through it and like they get together. So like I latched onto him so quick. And then she goes through the door and we start to get to know Eamon, and I'm like, what? So at first I feel like for a while I had this like dislike, not necessarily dislike, but I was like, it's not going to be Eamon. So like for the longest time I was like not letting myself. And then we're just spending more and more time. And I'm like, it's like 70%. Mason's still not here. So at this point I just gotta, not 70%, but there was a certain point I was like, okay, we've been here for like a good chunk of the book.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was a little bit of a hindrance for me because I don't know why I decided in my head it was going to be Mason and then it wasn't.
That was also like something that I guess it was like hinted that like she did have a short relationship with Mason, but like,
well, they like, she talked about,
why would she have started a relationship with him and then go through the door?
Did she though?
That's what I think is that.
But no, because they were talking that, like the part you're talking about where she's talking about like her memories with Mason.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be the time after she went through the, right?
No, it was supposed to be because she originally went through the door in 2024.
35. Yeah.
But this time she went through in 2023. So it was supposed to say that it was supposed to be that after her grandmother died, her and Mason got together and then she went through the door and got with Eamon. So I'm like, why?
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like,
no, yeah.
I feel bad for Mason. I'm like, I know. No closure. Does he remember her?
Yeah.
Like,
also how, like in my head, I was like, what do you mean you got together with Mason? Like it was leading somewhere and then you went through the door and like you met Eamon and you just decided to give Mason up. Like I feel like that was brushed over in a way. Like maybe like obviously if we were in that timeline reading through her thoughts, I feel like it would have been more like the back and forth. But it was just so like, oh, like,
yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean? You mean that Jennifer Lawrence with the?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
So some of the things that like the whole time I was like, did she kill Nathaniel Rutherford or did Eamon? Like I was kind of, I started to lean towards Eamon, but then I didn't expect it to be like self-defense. I don't know why. Like the way it was.
Yeah. I wrote down that, like I I feel like I didn't have a theory because honestly I was too sick to form any theories. I didn't have a theory that I wasn't like thinking about who killed Eamon. I was just like, I'm just gonna get there and find out. But when it did get revealed that it was her, I wasn't necessarily surprised. But I also feel like I did see the self-defense coming. Because I was like, there's no way. Like, I feel like all the times where they talk about, what's that one girl's name? The girl that sees her running through the field.
Oh, I can't remember.
Something.
It's a weird name.
I know. Anyways.
The neighbor or whatever.
Yeah, when they talk about, like, how she saw on the night that Nathaniel was murdered, her June running through the field, holding Annie and, like, blood on her dress. Like, I feel like I never thought, like, I thought, like, oh, she's hurt.
Yeah, that's
so
what
when
I thought.
When we finally saw that, oh, it wasn't her just killing him, it was self-defense, I feel like I wasn't super surprised, but I wasn't making a theory on it either.
Yeah, also, I was not expecting Caleb to be her brother. I don't know why.
I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah. That surprised me.
But no, that whole thing where we found out that, like, so June died, or she didn't die, sorry. Susanna has Esther take her through the door, right? To go back? Because Susanna came and had her, like, got with Nathaniel and had her, and then Nathaniel started going crazy and was, like, upset that they were having this baby out of wedlock. He was wanting Susanna to off the baby, so whenever, I think he's, like, on a trip or something, like, he's out on some trip.
They fake the death or whatever.
They fake the death. Like, she gives birth, and then I'm pretty sure she has Esther take June through the door and leave her and come back.
That sounds right, yeah.
So whenever we found that out, I was like, okay, that's crazy. And then we find out that 2 years later, she has another kid, and
yeah.
What? I don't know. I wasn't expecting that part either. I was not
expecting her to have another kid. And then also, I fully believed the whole, like, sanity thing. Like, I wasn't expecting... I thought she killed herself. I did not think it was going to be that...
I didn't necessarily think she killed herself, but I did think she was crazy and that, like, she just got in a bad situation or something.
Yeah.
Like, my head was like, oh, she just, like, probably ran off a cliff or something.
Just being, Margaret being Granny and, like, having to see your daughter, like, knowing what your daughter's life is going to be before you even have her, that's, like, so depressing.
So I wrote down for chapter 13, like, this shortly after June comes through, and she's, like, interacting with Margaret and, like, getting to know her. I'm like, Margaret's, like, 16 years old. This is her grandma. This is the person who raised her, and she's just seeing her at, like, a younger thing, and it was just so interesting to read about. But then I started thinking about, it's like, the fact that Margaret knows that her daughter is gonna, like, go through all this stuff, and just lives with that. Because, like, also at one point June talks about how it was weird to her that Margaret never seemed super affected by Susanna's, like, disappearance and stuff. Like, obviously she wasn't super affected because she knows that she is dead.
She's had her whole life to come to terms with it.
Yeah, but, like, that is crazy that she just knows what's going to happen to her daughter, and then the fact that she
grew up with her granddaughter being older than her.
She grew up with her granddaughter being older than her, like, became friends with her granddaughter.
Yeah.
And then when June had Annie, that adds a whole other level. She's close in age to her great-great-granddaughter and is, like, taking care of her and, like, being friends with her, like...
Yeah. So interesting. I was going to say something, I can't remember. Oh, I remember at the beginning of the book when Birdie's like, when Birdie finds out that she's been having the visions or whatever, hallucinations, she called them, and she was like, have you started to remember? That, I was like, remember? Like, these are memories? They're not like alternate, like, and then I was like, that's crazy, like, because there was that part where she said that she could feel like a man next to her while she was sleeping.
Literally, the chapter starts off and she's like, I feel like his arms around me. She, like, feels the embrace of a man and, like smells him and hears him. And I was like, okay, Mason, like, what's going on? And then she, like, wakes up and nobody's there. And I'm like, what the heck was this?
But then, like,
the other thing is when she went through the door and realized that was Eamon in that, like, vision she was getting. I was like, oh, well, I wanted it to be Mason.
Poor Mason. Justice for Mason. I liked the relationship with her.
I did. I don't know why I hooked onto it, and I was like, well, this is where it's gonna go, and
because you could tell he cared about her.
Yeah, and then like they hinted towards her having some feelings towards him, but no, that just like the whole book when all those little visions would pop up. Yeah, it's like, what is going on? Like, this is one book that like I could not wrap my mind around the whole time.
Yeah, so like at the end, whenever she's like, I don't know, she's like making breakfast or something, and we're getting her thoughts from like the her that was in the in 1950. You know what I'm talking about?
We're like all the
yeah, and she's like thinking it's just like a casual brush over of like, I'm gonna miss this or whatever. I was like she was like making dinner and making breakfast and making coffee. She's like, I'm gonna miss the casualness of this.
Yeah.
And I was like, where are you going? So
well, that was her when she was
planning to leave
and waiting for the door, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, the timing of it being like 4 days after the murder or whatever. Yeah. I'm like,
I know.
Also, when we found out that she like only left Annie like for minutes before that, I was like, okay, thank the Lord, because I'm like, how are you gonna redeem that?
No, yeah, that whole time I was like, I just let the child alone. I mean, you can't control when the door shows up, but she was like, Annie was sleeping in my bed, and I'm like, okay, y'all need to chill out just a little bit. Like, it wasn't that intense, but I had written down a note in chapter 18 is when Caleb stops Esther and June when they're driving in the truck, and he's like, pulls them over, and he's like, June, I need you to come into the station for a interview. When she goes in and she's having to answer these questions about events that she has no idea, like, she knows that she lived them, but she doesn't know the answers, and they're like, do you know what this shoe is? And like, I would be so stressed if I was her trying to answer these and like
not condemn yourself.
Yeah. Well, not even that, but just like, you don't know how to answer them.
Yeah.
And like, obviously she doesn't want to get arrested, and like Esther told her to, well, I can't remember exactly what she said to her.
She said that you went home and you spent the
evening together. She was like, this is what you did. But then it's like, obviously Caleb had different questions, and then like when he asked her, so did you and Eamon and Annie go home together? And she's like, yeah. And he was like, well, that's not what you said. I was like,
oh gosh, I know. I was like, oh gosh, this is so stressful.
And then I thought that she was gonna, I don't know, in my head I was like, okay, well, she's about to like get stuck in this jail. But then I can't remember exactly what happens, but Eamon comes and gets her.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and
I think that was one moment. That was like the moment. That was the moment where I was like, okay, well now I'm like starting to like Eamon.
That was really hard though too. I feel like the whole aspect of the book, like, you wanted them to be able to grow close together, but he was hurt because it was like it was his wife, but not his wife.
And then like she, like, you could see the longing she had for him and for Annie, but it's like she didn't want to.
Mm-hmm. And then whenever he asked her, like, do you remember, like, do you actually remember me? I was like, and then I thought there was no spice. It wasn't like full spice, I would say, but it was like,
I don't know what you call those type of scenes, because they're not closed door, but they're not super descriptive. They're like,
it was like fade to black, but like here's like the beginning of it.
A little bit.
Yeah, that was kind of
yeah. I just,
it wasn't a lot. Yeah, just like a little flip.
But no, I think that was like a defining moment where I was like, okay, well, I can get on board with Eamon and I can start to like him. But also the what we said about like them having like Eamon knowing that's his wife, but like he's her, and then her wanting to get to know him and Annie, but like she doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know where she's gonna be. And then my thought was like, I was thinking like, if the end of the book she ends up staying and like getting back together with Eamon and staying, like, that's a little bit weird, because it's like, obviously I didn't realize that like all her memories would come back.
No, yeah, she was gaining them all back. I know,
but I wasn't thinking about that. So in my head I was like, you're just gonna have to like get to know this man again, like just try to insert.
I didn't.
But I wasn't thinking about the fact that all of her memories would come back.
Okay, and then also the main thing that I was not predicting at all was that
Annie was Birdie.
That surprised me.
Literally, okay, so what was that? I can't remember what.
What did she explain her as at the beginning of the book?
Birdie is her grandma's best friend, and like they've known each other. They grew up together.
Did they say anything about Birdie having any kids?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like Birdie wasn't married. Birdie didn't have kids. Or wait, no, Birdie didn't have kids or anything. but they explained, and she was the first character I wrote down. I was like, Birdie, Grant's best friend, lives with June. And so, no, that chapter, what chapter was it? I have it written down.
That's crazy because
chapter 29
changes everything.
Changes, like, that was a plot twist. I was like,
yeah.
In that chapter when she goes to confront Margaret because she's like, something to do with the letter, and then she's like talking to Margaret, and she's like, it's you, isn't it? And like Margaret's like, then Margaret starts to explain how like her and the June that came from 2024 like made all this plan out to try to fix the curse so that Annie didn't have to go through it. And as they were having that conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, so like Margaret knew this whole time, like she knows everything that's happening.
Yeah, if even in the past tense too, like when June
Margaret
comes back and no one knows what's going on. Yeah,
every single Margaret knows every single June. Like, well, I guess not like younger Margaret doesn't know. I don't know, but like it's crazy. And so during that, I started to like have like I don't know why I started thinking about Birdie, because I was like, why would Birdie be so important to her? And then I had some sort of theory, and I can't even remember who I thought she was. I think for a second there, I thought Birdie was June. I was like, somehow Birdie is June. And, like, I don't know. This book was crazy. And then she said, who was Birdie? And then she just looks up at Annie, and I was like,
yeah.
That was a crazy like, that is one of those moments that's always going to stick out of, like, when you find out a pivotal piece of information.
I know, that was crazy to find out. But
there's just something so fun about, like, when you're reading, like, actively reading the chapter, and, like, you know you're about to get to something revealed, and, like, you start piecing things together, like, and you're like, okay, let me slow down while I'm reading this and actually find it out. It was just crazy.
Yeah, like, you have to, like, slow down so you can take it in a little bit better. Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was a good book. I thought that was a fun ending. And I thought it was nice that, like, Caleb basically just accepted and let it go.
Yeah.
Like that was like refreshing that it wasn't going to be like her life's ruined now.
Yeah. Also, I kind of liked the plot of like, obviously it sucks, but him moving away, like it wasn't the classic like, oh, everything's happy, like the siblings get back together. Like he just moved away because he couldn't handle it.
No, that would have been me too probably.
The funny thing that I like wrote down was in chapter 30 is when they're like in the house and they just had the conversation of finding out how Margaret knew everything and then who Birdie was, and then Caleb shows up to arrest June for the murder of Nathaniel, and Esther immediately pulls out like her rifle or shotgun, and I know Esther's not an old lady, like I know she's probably just like 40, 50, like she's not super old, but in my head, the first thing I thought of was, like, this is so specific. If you've ever seen Holiday in Handcuffs, there's this scene at the end, like during dinner, where the grandma, like police show up, and the grandma whips out her gun and she's pointing it at the police. So the first thing when they're like, Esther whips out the gun, I just see the grandma from Holiday in Handcuffs whipping out her gun and holding it at the police. So that was just such a random, like, so little funny moment, like, in my head. So I wrote that down because,
oh my gosh,
it's like I don't want to forget this because when things just randomly remind you of something.
That is so funny. I don't know. I thought it was a good book. I thought that it was sweet that they like got remarried at the end. Yeah. I know I saw some people saying like they wish we got a little more of everything, but I think that for a standalone, like, it was refreshing that it wasn't super long. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like I always wish I could get a little more romance, but like that wasn't necessarily the point of the book.
Yeah, it wasn't.
The point was like the mystery of it and like what the heck is up with the Farrows? Like, yeah.
Honestly, like I didn't know what
was coming the whole book.
I didn't know what was coming. I was just like, what is this gonna be? Yeah. I literally talked it out with my husband. He called me while he was working the other day and was like, oh, I started my book, and I just told him I was like 10 chapters and I told him every minute of those 10 chapters. So I was like,
it's just one of happening? Those ones where it's like your brain is confused the whole time and you're trying to figure it out, and like it just keeps you hooked. It's like a thriller where it felt like you couldn't really put it down. Like once I started it, I went through it pretty fast and I was just like, I just want to know what's gonna happen. And then I also just really liked like the time setting, like getting to go back in time and I don't know, be in that little era and fun.
Like I said, it was like refreshing to read a book where she was a little bit older and it was like, I don't know, I think that the book surprised me a lot, which was kind of fun.
I don't know why. Like, why the heck did I think it was going to be a fantasy with a 19-year-old?
It's people write it down as a fantasy a lot, because I had it.
It's not fantasy at all.
I heard about it on TikTok or something, and so I have like a shelf on Goodreads marked as like standalone fantasies. So because you know, a lot of times fantasies are like long, and I want to just read one little world.
Yeah.
Quick book, and so I put this in there because it was on that list. But this is not fantasy.
Yeah.
It's like just like magical realism. It has like a touch of romance. It has the time travel. It has like I don't know. It's all over the place. I feel like.
Yeah, it is a really good book.
It's an easy book to recommend to people. I feel like.
Also, I feel like it's a really good book club book. Like somehow we chose well.
I know, it ended up being a good one.
Also, another thing. This is so random, but when I was sick, before I was reading the book, I was literally just spending all day on TikTok because I was rotting in bed, just dead, spending my whole time on TikTok. And for some reason, I was getting like a ton of like people playing the game The Last of Us on my For You page, that's from that show, but it was a game first. So it's getting a ton of people playing that game on my For You page, and the game follows this guy named Joel, and he's like 40, 30, and like the whole time I read this book, that's what I pictured Eamon as. Like, as that character, and like, I don't know, it's such a random thing, but like, we've talked about that before. Yeah. It's like when you get a specific person in your head,
and you can't get it out.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And so it
sucks when it's like not a
good person.
I've talked about it before, but I literally, every time this comes up, it's the first thing I think of is my husband and I watched Oppenheimer in theaters. I came home that night and I started Twisted Love. So for Alex, all I can picture was Cillian Murphy. And like, even now when I picture myself reading the book, I can only see Cillian Murphy. I'm like, dude, he's just like not.
You would have enjoyed it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I would have. I just did not connect to it because I don't have anything against the guy. It's just not who I like wanted to picture for the book. Like,
yeah.
Anyway. So that was that.
Yeah.
If you're not part of our Fable book club, join it and ride along with us because it's fun to it breaks it down by chapter, and you can
literally like what we did. Something crazy happens, chapter 10. I was confused. I went and I wrote in the thing, I don't know what's going on, I'm confused. And you can see what other people write, so it's just kind of a fun way to like communicate. And
yeah, it's honestly fun to me too, like when we're reading it at the same time, and then like I read a little bit and I go check, and it'll tell you like there's a little dot, like if someone wrote something new in a chapter. So I'm like, it's almost like a reward that like, oh, if I get to this many chapters, I get to read what someone else wrote. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just fun. But are we gonna announce the book for next month, or are we gonna do that just on our Instagram?
We did it.
Okay. Yeah. So we've already chose the book for June, which is gonna be Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry.
It is a fantasy book. Is it a standalone or no? It's a series, right?
I think it's the beginning of a series. It just came out in April, so it's gotten a ton of attention, and it's I wanted to read it. She's wanted to read it, so we're like, why don't we just do it for
our book club?
So if you haven't read it yet, or if you have read it and you just kind of want to like listen along with us, like join the book club, and we'll be posting, of course, our little recap video of that at the end of the month.
Yep. That's all.
Anyway, thanks for watching, and
listening.
Sorry, we're looking at a camera, so I'm like, you're watching us.
Well, if you are watching,
thanks for listening and watching.
Yeah.
And if you're not subscribed, and if you're not following us on Spotify, do all the things, because all the engagement helps.
We love it. Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Bye.